The Galveston hurricane of 1900 and its recovery isn't an isolated event, as most of the die-hard researchers on here know. I value all of your feedback, whether you agree or disagree. My goal with these videos is twofold: to provide substance for the seasoned researchers here and to plant a seed of curiosity for those who are just beginning to question the official narrative. Because these narratives are weird. Okay, they're weird. With that being said, let's look at the Great Seattle Fire of 1889. The speed of Seattle's recovery is just as astonishing as Galveston's, and believe it or not, people, the photos of the rising of the city, yes, they do it too, left me with way more questions than Galveston did. Just like Galveston's inaccurate death tolls of 6,000 to 12,000 souls, Seattle has a similar occurrence. Not in death tolls, as surprisingly nobody died, but rather in the extent of their destruction. Sources say that there were anywhere from 25 to 64 city blocks that were decimated, which is a large gap. How could you not know the exact number of city blocks, or at least within the smaller range? You'd think someone had an exact layout of what was rebuilt, but then again, they would have had to keep up with almost 6,000 reconstructed buildings within an 18-month period. Yeah, I said it. What's funny is that they did keep up with every structure, and I'll add the extensive list at the end. It's extensive. Seattle had literally no days off following the Great Fire. The exact total is 5,625, and with these structures popping up in under a year and a half, that means workmen would have had to have built 10 structures a day. And there was no wood being used. After the fire, a ban on new wooden construction was ordained in the business district that just burned. What's crazy is the destruction photos look mostly like stone or brick rubble, other pieces of non-wooden parts sticking up. Look in the background as well. Does that look wood? Does any of that look wooden? And remember, Seattle was still the new kid on the block, incorporated only in 1869. It was barely out of diapers when the 1889 fire hit, just 20 years young. Looking in the back of this photo, this doesn't look like new beginnings. It looks like a classic re-inhabited city, as we see quite often. Just like Galveston, skilled bricklayers and masons were recruited from across the US, and they must have been extremely skilled for what popped up in this short amount of time. Not only was it gigantic stone structures, but also over 40 miles of track. To meet the demand, massive amounts of bricks were imported from Japan, as domestic supplies ran short. If you don't know how bricks were made in the late 19th century, then let me show you. Slicing and dicing, baby. That would have taken some time, and then getting some from Japan? Come on. Props to those builders though, and even more props to the reporter's swiftness that gathered an entire page sequencing the events the day after the destruction. The start of the fire was at 2:15 p.m. on 6/6/1889, which 1889 adds up to 27. Then that number adds up to 9. Turn the 9 upside down and that's 666, but I'm just silly. The reporter then states it stopped on June 7th, 1889, the next day at 3 a.m. All of that was detailed within a newspaper only a few hours after the flames. Kind of seems like that was predetermined narrative with how quickly that guy gathered every hour of the fire the next day. Within 10 years of the fire, the city decided that parts of Seattle were too low-lying at the edge of Elliott's Bay, and Denny Hill and others needed to be leveled. Over 60 regrades, roughly 50 million tons of earth were removed. Now, I'm not going to go into this as much because I want y'all to take it from here, but does it look like a regrade or does it look like a rediscovery? They say they used hydraulic sluicing and used 20 million gallons a day pumped from Lake Union into Elliott's Bay, creating central waterfront as we see today. The spraying on the hose just doesn't look like enough power to truly accomplish this, and where's the ponds of water that would have accumulated after a while? Furthermore, their use of water pressure seems to indicate a desire to be careful when removing earth, almost as if they didn't want a shovel to destroy what was underneath. Or perhaps everything we've been taught to believe is simply what we're expected to accept without question. They say trust the messenger, but if that's always been your path, if you've never dared to question, then you've probably swiped away by now. Yeah, love y'all. and have a good day.